Good evening, dear patients. It is I, Dr. Phobia, and tonight I have deemed it necessary for you to receive your weekly dosage of creepypastas. So sit back, relax, and enjoy tonight's tale, Gaslighting, the Art of Destroying Sanity. The problem with asking yourself if you're insane is you're the only one that can answer. And why would you listen to someone who's crazy? I must have asked myself 100 times over the last week. It started with little things. I spent almost an hour looking for my stapler before finding it in the break room fridge at work. I work at a software company. Boring stuff. I'd get the wrong day for a staff meeting or have the wrong information for a client and accidentally ask about his wife, who's been dead for over a year. My shoelaces never seemed to be tied, although I suppose that doesn't matter, because somehow my shoes were always 2 sizes too small. The worst was I couldn't even recognize someone at work. She swore we've known each other for years. Apparently, I went to her kid's piano recital last month. I wish she'd just gotten angry with me instead of giving me that despairing, pitying look. I think I gave my sick cat that same look right before I had to put her down a few years ago. What could I do, though? This woman was just a tired face and a tight ponytail to me. I still couldn't pick her from a police lineup or remember her name if my life depended on it. These only account for a handful of my slips. Any one of them might be forgivable in isolation, but the daily repetition left me anxious all the time. I couldn't even trust myself to remember the route to work that I've been driving for the last 7 years. Obsessively using my GPS just to be sure. Even though every thought, every move, I was doubting myself, hating myself for double-checking things with twice the self-loathing when I didn't and slip up. That's when it hit me. Every unaccountable thing was happening to me around work. Chances are, anything bad that happens at work is because of that son of a bitch who thinks his eyebrow piercing is still cool at 40, Jason Britton. I don't know how he's doing it, but he is. He probably even hired that lady to screw with me. I haven't seen her around the office since our altercation the other day. He's the only other person who's been working here for 5+ years, and with our district manager talking about retirement, he's my only reasonable competition for the position. I caught his eye. He was staring at me over his coffee, not even pretending to hide his smirk when he put his cup down. I grinned back for once, acknowledging the silent battle which has already begun. "Check your email?" he asked me. "No, why? Did you sign me up for another pornographic newsletter?" Any jury who saw that smirk would immediately forgive whatever I did to him. "The manager wants to see us about something tomorrow before work. Just us." "That'll be enough time," I said, casually leaning back in my chair. "Enough time for what?" The spine of my chair broke in two. The jarring impact didn't hurt me as bad as my dignity as I landed on the ground. Jason howled with laughter, and as I scrambled to my feet, the chair didn't snap. It had been unscrewed. Enough time to break him. His plan was obvious enough. He wanted me so rattled and insecure that I made a fool of myself in front of the manager. Then he'd swoop in all suave, smothering me with fake concern as he brought up my recent mistakes. Honestly, it wasn't a terrible plan. But there's something he didn't account for. He spent all this effort trying to make me seem crazy without realizing that I'm already insane. He seemed on edge after that, glancing at me every few minutes, waiting for me to make my move. Good. Let him wait. Let him stew in that uncertain fear that he made me suffer through. Let him jump at every noise and go out of his way to avoid every shadow. He won't be ready for what I have in store. By the end of the hour, Jason was fidgeting nonstop. "I don't like this," he said. "Let's call it a truce, okay? There's a better way." I raised my finger in the air, making him wait for a few more excruciating seconds before replying, "The time is nigh." "What the hell? No one talks like that." "Say it one more time for the recorder." He held up his phone, red light flashing. I just smiled and looked directly into the light. "You think I care about some shitty desk job? The day of reckoning is coming in June, and you'll pay for what you've done." "Perfect," he said, swiftly concealing his phone. "The manager is going to love this." That should have been his victory, but he looked more pallid than ever. It was too easy, and he knows it. I heard him replaying the recording a dozen times by the end of the day, staring at disbelief at how crazy I actually looked. You probably think I'm crazy too, don't you? You've gotten so used to the status quo, you've forgotten how fragile it really is. A fancy title like manager, police captain, or president. You still think that means something, don't you? And everything that doesn't fit into your imaginary idea of how the world should be, you just throw it away and pretend it doesn't exist. If you feel safe right now, you're a joke. At least Jason was smart enough to figure out how screwed he really was. "Look, man, it was just a prank. I'm sorry, okay?" No point in putting up pretenses anymore. I didn't touch my computer. I just sat there staring at him, humming, watching the sweat on his brow. "The jokes. Remember when you took off your shoes when we met with those telecom people at the fancy Japanese restaurant? I swapped them for a smaller pair I bought. Haha, get it? Jokes. Funny jokes." I smiled. "I get it, Jason. Ha ha." I didn't laugh. I just spoke the syllables slowly and deliberately, and then went back to humming. Tomorrow is going to be fun. Jason showed up for the meeting the next morning, right on time. I guess I overestimated him. He held the door open for me to enter, but then pushed past me anyway. "You're probably wondering what all this is about. Don't worry, you're not in trouble, Mr. Dawson," the salt-and-peppered-haired manager said in his calm voice. Jason had been fidgeting with his phone since he came in, but he was starting to relax. He even spares me a glance. He thinks he's safe now, that I wouldn't dare do anything right in front of the boss. Poor Jason. I gave him the look I gave my old cat. He quickly averted his gaze. "Well, the truth is that the rumors are true. I barely recognize my grandkids every time I see them. They're growing so fast. I think it's time I stepped down as district manager." I started to hum softly. I don't think the boss noticed, but it was satisfying to see how rigid Jason's posture became. "Before you continue, there's something you should know," Jason blurted out. He sounded shocked to hear himself speak. This isn't how he planned it, but it was too late to turn back. "There have been reports all over the office of this guy's erratic behavior, and I don't think he's the right person for the position. Look, I even got a video." Jason practically slams his phone on the desk, immediately hitting play. The screaming shatters the early morning air, the agony palpable. The shaking video darts back and forth across an overcrowded classroom with a concrete floor and barred windows. "What is this nonsense?" Mr. Dawson demands. I'm sorry, I don't know how this got on here," Jason stammers. I hum a little louder. I think it's something by Beethoven. Jason snatches for his phone, but the manager is quicker. He scoops it off his desk into plain view. Where is this? Who are these children? I don't know. It's nothing. What I'm trying to show you is... That's Jake. Oh my God. The boss had paused the video on an impassioned face of a screaming child. What the hell are you doing with my grandkids? I guess we'll have to play the video and find out, I supply helpfully. Wait, stop, give that to me. Jason dives across the desk to take the phone, but Mr. Dawson roughly shoves him back in his seat, his hand trembling. He hits play again. The screaming is eviscerating. The camera shakes as the person holding it moves. It stops in the center of the classroom, looking down at a child with a shaved head, gender uncertain. The child keeps its gaze directly forward, breathing rapid and shallow, not looking at the camera. Casey? The manager whispers, barely able to breathe. Say it one more time for the recorder. It's Jason's voice that I recorded earlier that day. The boss couldn't tell that it was an edit video, but Jason could. He glares at me, and I silently mouth the words, ha ha, jokes, get it? Funny jokes. There's a better way, the child says, still staring rigidly ahead. A metal plate is dropped unceremoniously on her desk. I'm not sure if the others recognize what was on it, but I can tell you, it was a raw human liver. The girl lunges for it, to clutch it protectively in both hands, afraid it will be taken away. She sinks her teeth into it. The blood oozes between her fingers and smears across her face. The manager is going to love this, says Jason's voice again, as the recording ends. Stunned silence. There's murder in Mr. Dawson's eyes. I don't know if this is a bad time, I pipe up, but I don't think either of us should have the job. Jason's obviously a sick wacko, and I've actually got another opportunity coming up that I wouldn't miss for the world. That was Gaslighting. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for listening. Like I always say in closing, check under your bed, look in your closet, and sleep with the light on. The life you save may very well be your own. Good night, everyone.